Susan Seamer, and I work primarily with school improvement and universal design for learning at the SST. And Buddy Tucker is my partner this morning. He works with school improvement and also PBIS. So we're going to be presenting some opportunities for networking this morning and also some information. We'd like to thank Scott Eldridge for being our moderator and facilitator this morning. Thank you, Scott. And we'd like to welcome several districts and ESCs this morning. They may not be on here now, but just to let you know who we're expecting may pop in at some point.
I have like more what the teachers had, but I can also pull the reports. And she said that that's all that I can pull or something.
Gotcha, got it.
Okay, let's try and figure out where that's going. Okay, so we would like to welcome all of our districts here or joining us in a few moments. Morgan Local, Conotton Valley, Riverview, East Central Ohio ESC, Zanesville City, Franklin Local, Cambridge City, Zanesville Community School, Edison Local, St. Clairsville City Schools, Maysville Local, Union Local, Switzerland of Ohio, Dover City, Claymont City, Muskingum Valley ESC, East Muskingum Schools, the Office of Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, and Caldwell Exempted Village have all registered. So welcome to all of you. And as Buddy said, we also expect sometime later this morning for Morgan Brown and maybe also Amy Hill from the Office of Federal Programs to join us. So some of you have been with us before, and some of you are, of course, new. So we just like to talk for just a moment about the purpose of the group. This Support School Network Group was designed to offer some information and networking opportunities to districts and school administrators who are involved in school improvement efforts. So if you're one of our people from last year, welcome back. And if you're new to the group, we welcome you new this morning. So there's a lot of different folks on here, and what we'd like to do is just go around the room, so to speak, and let you tell a little bit about you so everyone has an idea of who's here. Something kind of fun and goofy. Tell us your name, district, and position, of course. And then if you were the captain of a pirate ship, what would be the name of your ship? Yes, the dreaded icebreaker, right? So I'll start. As I said, I'm Susan Seamer. I work at the SST 12. My position is rooted in school improvement and universal design for learning. And I think the name of my pirate ship would be the Wandering Wanderer, because I'm always traveling from meeting to meeting to meeting, not quite sure where I'm supposed to go next. Okay, so next is Buddy.
Okay, I was telling Sue, I think I spent more time trying to figure out a name for this ship than I did updating my notes, but a couple things bordered on inappropriate, but I settled on the happy hour, like make drinks, not war, since it was supposed to be a pirate ship. So
okay, so next would be Rose from Cambridge. And you're muted there.
There we go. Rosemary Damon, Cambridge City Schools, Director of Federal Programs and 612 curriculum. And I don't have a clue the name of a pirate ship. Daily Adventure.
That's a good one. Thank you, Rose. Next, I have Jennifer, and I believe Jennifer's from Switzerland, Ohio. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, Switzerland. So I'm Jennifer Bohatch, Chief Academic Officer from Switzerland, Ohio. When I look at a name, I guess the first thing comes to mind is don't give up the ship.
Great, great. Thank you, Jennifer. And then we have Anne from East Muskingum.
Good morning. I'm Ann Trenley, and I am Director of Instructional Services as well as Food Services. So that's kind of an interesting little thing about me. And I try to be happy, and so I would call it the Friendly Trenley ship.
Oh, that's so cool. And then we have Seth Corder.
Morning, everybody. Seth Corder, Assistant Superintendent, Dover City Schools. I cannot think of a name for my pirate ship. I'm just trying to keep it afloat right now. And I'm sure that others can empathize with that. So thank you for having me and good morning.
Great, Seth. Thank you. Lydia from the SST.
Good morning. I'm Lydia Brodegard. I'm from SST 12. I do special education, secondary transition, and school improvement. And my pirate ship would probably be, how about the Twin Traveler? Since I have twins, and that's usually what people remember me by.
They'll remember that. Thanks, Lydia. And Scott?
You caught me while I was trying to do breakout rooms. Scott Eldridge, I am working with the SST primarily with PBIS, but also school improvement. Pirate ship. I would go with moderator.
Thank you.
It seems like that's what I get stuck with every time.
Yeah, exactly. Next we have Stephanie from Conotton Valley.
And my phone is ringing right now, so we'll try to fix that. So I'm Stephanie Garrett. I'm from Conotton Valley. I'm the curriculum director. I'm also a testing coordinator and federal funds. And I think if we had to have a pirate ship, it might be the Jolly Rocket. So we'll go with that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking at Steve Foreman from Zanesville City.
Hi, I'm Steve Foreman, Zanesville City Schools. I'm the assistant superintendent. And pirate ship, I guess, would be the happy anchor, because in light of all the things that weigh us down, we put on a happy face and try to make the best of it.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Steve. Jill Sheridan. Is muted.
I lost my button to unmute myself there in the process. So good morning, everyone. I am Jill Sheridan. I wear two hats. I serve as school improvement for State Support Team Region 12, and I am also the regional field coordinator for school climate for Southeastern Ohio. And so I would have to say that the name of my pirate ship, and this was difficult, right? Like, I don't have enough coffee yet this morning, Susan, for this, but I'm going to say that because of my roles and in education, I'm going to call my pirate ship the Inclusive Floater.
Ooh, thank you, Jill. Michelle Jordan.
Hi, I'm Michelle Jordan, Director of Exceptional Education for Zanesville City Schools, and my pirate ship would be the Adventure Galley, because every day is a new adventure.
Oh, so true. Thanks, Michelle. Susan Larson.
Good morning. I'm Susan Larson, and I am a school improvement consultant with SST 12. I am a regional data lead, dabble in UDL and family engagement. And if I were the captain of a pirate ship this morning, I would probably call it the kind ship. Try to have a little friendliness.
Thanks, Susan. And we have Christina from St. Clairsville.
Good morning. I'm Christina from St. Clairsville. I'm the Assistant Superintendent, Director of Curriculum and Instruction and Federal Programs. And if I were the captain of a pirate ship, it would be called the Angel of Doom, because I always try to give good news before I give the bad stuff.
Thank you. Let's see. Next, Doug Baker from Zanesville.
Good morning, everyone. Doug Baker, Zanesville City Schools Superintendent. And I would stick with an all-time favorite from Peter Pan, and that would be the Jolly Roger.
Very cool. Thank you. Kelly Welgemuth. Oh, you're muted, Kelly.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kelly Wolgamuth. I'm curriculum coordinator at Caldwell Exempted Village Schools. The name of my pirate ship is Drowning in the Deep, because who isn't at this point? And my interesting fact is I am going to attempt to go to Austria next month, barring that the borders don't close over there. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, very cool. Thanks, Kelly. Next, we have another Kelly, Kelly Hayden.
Hi, my name is Kelly Hayden, and I'm with Zanesville City Schools. My position is Director of Curriculum and Human Resources, and as you know, we're in a subs shortage, and I love 80s rock Bon Jovi, so my ship would be Living on a Prayer.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Brian Watkins.
Hi, everybody. Unfortunately, I have to keep my video off because my computer will freeze if I have it on. But I'm Brian Watkins, Claymont City Schools. I'm principal of grades 6 through 8. And my ship is organized chaos because we are also having issues with subs. And unfortunately, today I'm going to have to log off of here early because I've already been in classrooms this morning, and I'm going to have to go in classrooms here shortly.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us. Jamie Yannick.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jamie Yannick. I work at Union Local School District, and I am the Assistant Superintendent and the Director of Special Education. And I think I would name my ship It's All Good, because I try to do positive talk, and it's all good. It's going to work out.
Thank you. Carrie Bunting.
Good morning. My name is Carrie Bunting. I am the Supervisor of Student Services for Zanesville Community High School. And I'm going to say the name of my pirate ship would be Positive Mayhem. Just a whole lot of things going on here all the time, and I wear a lot of hats, and so that's the positive thing. I love what I do, but a whole lot of things going on right now.
Thanks, Carrie. Next, Travis Stewart.
Hi, I just got in late here. Can you hear me?
We're just kind of introducing ourselves, Travis, with your name, district, your position, and then we're trying to have a little fun. So if you were the captain of a pirate ship, what would be the name of your ship?
Okay. So my name's Travis Stewart, and I'm actually with Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities. So I just join in on some of these SST related meetings to join in here, but I'm not part of any other district or anything. And then the name of my ship, oh boy, we'll call it the SS Expert in Disabilities, because that's what I want everyone to know me as, is the go-to and helping individuals with disabilities find work.
Oh, nice. Thanks for coming, Travis. Angie Hicks.
Hello.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, so I'm Angela Hicks. I work for East Central Ohio Educational Service Center, and I service Shadyside schools with curriculum. And if I would be guiding a ship today, it would be the Mighty Maritime, because no matter how deep the waters or how strong they flow, we still must go on.
Thanks, Angie. Did I miss anybody? I think I got everyone. Okay, so moving forward, we just like to remind everyone that the SST is active on Twitter. And if you don't already follow us, we'd appreciate a follow there. We put updates there. We also put links to our registrations, flyers about upcoming meetings, and we try to retweet some of those more pertinent things from the departments. So if you are active on Twitter, we'd appreciate a follow there. And same for Facebook. We put kind of the same information there on this other platform. So if you're more Facebook friendly than Twitter, you can find that same kind of information on our Facebook page. And I think Buddy's going to talk a little bit about OLAC.
Yeah, we're trying to, in some of our network meetings and PD, sort of advertise this showcase and OLAC forum that's coming up. I used to go to this when I was working in district, even before I was at the SST, and it's a great, it's virtual again this year, and it's a great conference to go to hear actual best practices from districts, and on the OLAC side, it's for school improvement. And for the PBIS side, it's for implementation and things that districts are doing to implement PBIS. So a lot of, I don't want to get into either of those two in detail, but I think Scott just put in a link that they were looking, and I think they extended the deadline for call for presenters for this conference. And then once you get into that application to present, then you can choose whether it's going to be an OLAC, like a school improvement presentation, or it's going to be a PBIS presentation. So, so it's a really good, it's just one day. We're kind of lobbying to try to make it 2 days so there can be more districts have the opportunity to present, and that way you could hear more examples. So also it's a time that PBIS showcases when they recognize buildings and districts throughout the state for their PBIS implementation, whether they have a bronze, silver, or gold award or a district award, for that implementation. And I give Scott, some kudos here, because we're on a work group, and there's a lot of time that our work group puts into prepping to get recognitions organized and out there for this PBIS showcase. And he's done a lot of behind the scenes work, setting up, collecting pictures, collecting information, put them in files, and he and another person really kind of head our work group that we're on for ODE. But anyway, I wanted to make sure that we put that out there. Doug Reeves got one of the keynotes for this conference. So we're at, whenever you get a chance to hear him, at least when I do, there's always something that sticks and something I'm able to learn and share with districts when when he's sharing his studies and his information. Any questions about that event? It's December 9th, and like I said, it's virtual this year. Hopefully this will be the last year that it's virtual. Hopefully it'll be in person next year. Okay, so getting into some of our session topics today, we're going to first talk about district and building designations review, and then school improvement updates that, that Susan and I, on occasion are involved in the Office of Improvement and Innovations work group. So as we hear those, then that's why we have these network meetings and office hours to share those things. And then we're going to have a cohort 1 discussion, give you guys a chance to kind of share your thoughts and feelings over some of the things that you guys have had to do over this past year when it comes to needs assessment and planning. And then last but not least, we are going to have some updates from Morgan Brown and Amy Hill. Hopefully they'll be joining us. I told them between 9:30 to 10, so we should be seeing them here shortly. And so for the district building designation review, we have so much to talk about. Susan does a great job putting these slides out there. So So this just did, and I have nothing to report. Well, almost, but what's new? Nothing. And I can't do the voices from the movies, but ain't nothing new. And finally, no changes for you. But in all seriousness, the designations are going to stay the same. Normally this month would be the new designations, but since ODE has extended those for 1 year, you know, based on the types of data they do and don't have, then those designations will be the same. Now, I know we have links that Scott may be able to put in the chat, or I'll be able to put in the chat, of district support, sort of, if you kind of forgotten maybe what your designation is as a district or how you got there, sort of a refresher. So these are also in your resources link that you got when you got the Zoom link. But we have that, and then we also have links that explain watch school designations, focus and warning school designations, and also priority school designations. So that's just going to be refresher information. And if you get a chance to talk to your school support person that works with your district, I know Susan and I kind of mentioned this, you know, at our meetings, and we'll mention this at the staff meeting next week, in case you need to know or be reminded on how those things come to be. And if you remember, watch designations, be it for building or for district, happen annually, but they're not changing those as well this year. So there is going to be no new list for watch designations, but the focus and the priority designations are federal designations. So those are the ones that stay for 3 years, as well as the district designation. So that's why I know it's frustrating. I know there's places where I work with that might have been an intensive district that have worked hard over the last 3 years. And if new designations came out, they would not have been still designated as intensive. And then that's frustrating. You know, and then if the districts haven't continued to do a good structure in terms of if you were independent or maybe a moderate district, you know, that kind of, you kind of got saved for another year. So maybe, you know, restructure and tie up some loose ends this year if things slipped a little bit, you know, and you know, keep your status or try to get, you know, avoid dropping in designation. So that's, I don't know if there's any questions on that. I mean, Susan was having a little fun with, you know, with that, and it's just, you know, when there isn't a lot of data to go by, then it's going to be hard to switch designations.
Buddy, there's a question from Kelly in the chat. What about school quality improvement grants? Will those be released to the school year?
What's the timeline on though? I don't know for sure.
I think that'll be a good question for Morgan. We'll save that and make sure we get that with Morgan. He may have the up-to-date information there, don't you think?
Yeah, he could answer that question for sure. I can't. The timeline for some of those improvement grants kind of escaped me, but that question, Kelly, does lead me to the next slide with some of the things that we did here. There is going to be a support monitoring tool this year. ODE is just not sure who will be filling it out, if they're going to limit it to certain groups or to a certain cohort. So we're kind of on the lookout for current information, but it ties into that because if a school has been receiving some money for school quality improvement grants and continues to use those funds for something, then they may have to answer a question on that monitoring tool about how that's going to be used, as well as you know, other grant monies that are spent for certain things. And then if you were a district a couple of years ago that had to do the monitoring tool based on your designation as a district or building, you kind of got a pass for a while. So you may have to, if you were a moderate DF intensive district, or if you were a priority building, focus building, or if you were a watch building or district for a certain subgroup, then you may have to do the monitoring tool. But like I said, we're waiting to find out if it's going to be everybody or just certain cohorts.
Yeah, they're still really trying to hash that out. I don't think they want a really large group as in the past, because they're really hopeful to give feedback on some of those question sets this year. So I think whatever we see will probably be scaled back from what it has been in years past, if they follow through with what they're talking about now.
One of the other updates that we have, I know we put a link to a video in the resources that you guys received on report card, district report card information this year. I think it was Shelby Robertson from ODE presented at an ESC. So that was shared with us just a couple days ago. So we were able to put that in your resource. It's about 30 minutes in length. She talks about what the components will look like and what kind of changes are happening, for this year. And then she also mentioned that there should be a guide released soon. I thought she said this week, and I haven't seen it yet. So if it's not this week, then it should be in the near future, just to kind of, have a guide to go by about what the report cards will look like and what they'll include. The last thing I had in terms of school improvement and updates, we've been, in some work groups told that the OIP resources should be updated this year by the Department of Education. I know that if you kind of search for templates to use, maybe to capture your evidence in your discussions in your TBT meetings or BLT meetings, and those are kind of outdated. They kind of been outdated for a while. So there's another company that ODE is working with, and I think together they're trying to revamp these resources. And they even polled us as STE consultants as to what resources we thought were the most valuable to use as we work with districts. So hopefully those things will come about. I know Susan and I, many of you guys had come to things we used to do here in the office when we would get into detail about the functioning of teacher-based teams and of building leadership teams and district leadership teams. And we used to create resources or pull what we, could find, that were relevant. And we would share some things from the OLAC website, especially certain videos of teams that they had that we thought were effective. So once we get that information, then I hope that we can even, put some new OIP development together like we used to. Any questions on any of those? Okay. Now the next activity that we're going to do, Susan had created a Padlet, and I'm going to share my screen. And wanted to do an activity just to get some feedback as to the things that you all had to do, and especially if you're a cohort 1. But it's got 3 questions involved. Were there any barriers to completing the 1 needs assessment? Question 1. Question 2, what feedback do you have regarding the 1 plan? And when we mean by that, how was the platform? How was the functionality? Did it work well with what you were trying to do, and its usability? And then question 3, do you think the root cause analysis process helped you choose your goals and strategies? So some of these might be more if you were a cohort 1, but a lot of these everyone kind of had to do in some form or fashion with the needs assessment and a 1-year plan, or if you were a cohort 1. And I know we have a couple pilot folks maybe on here that had to do this a couple years ago, and just to get some feedback on those. So we're going to give you guys about 5 minutes or so to, on your own, go ahead and add some comments to these 3 questions, and then we'll have a discussion around the comments.
And if you're not, familiar with Padlet or having some problems navigating that, please feel free to put your comments in the chat. That's fine too.
Okay, we had some very good, thank you all for sharing, because we kind of use this information to take back to our work groups in terms of how these tools and these platforms are working, and they're still work in progress. So hopefully there won't be too many changes. There might be some slight ones for cohort 2s this year when it comes to what the needs assessment looks like. But if we go to question 1, were there any barriers that your team experienced when completing the one needs assessment? Talks about navigation issues, finding time, during COVID, and getting our teams to realize getting together to develop would be beneficial in the end once it was completed. And then a note that Susan had helped some principals through this process. So, thanks for sharing those. And, and that's good for us to know, because in all honesty, Scott and I did a leadership symposium last month, and we invited some folks that we knew kind of it was a priority to keep teams and keep structure within their district, even during the COVID and the school closing time period that they had, even if it was a modified or not like they typically would if they were in school and all the teachers are in the building all the time. So that evidence and that information is always captured. And we did that because when it comes to the one needs assessment, for those folks that had that continual structure and captured, those discussions and things, then might be a little easier when it comes to flowing through and having that information at the ready for this one needs assessment. So I like the fact that, that comment was teams realizing getting together is beneficial. So I kind of like that comment. Anyone else want to add? Because I couldn't see the chat, but anything that goes along with maybe it sparked a thought from someone else when someone put a comment in that column. And I know that something kind of between question 1 and 2, something that was kind of a common theme was that triggers in the questions that were triggered in the one needs assessment may not have necessarily matched certain things that you were working on, or certain populations that you were focusing on improvement. And that was a little frustrating. Because I assume that would be time that you're spending as for compliance to answer those questions so you can mark certain things complete, as opposed to working on the improvements in other areas that you want to spend more time being able to gather information.
Well, and I just wanted to say, I know there are a lot of our districts who had planned to be here who couldn't be here, but that I worked with. And I think time was a really huge, huge barrier last year. There was so much going on, and the timeline, it was March for cohort 1s. Then they thankfully at least moved it out to April, which helped a little bit, just a little bit last year. But I think time was just a huge issue, and you literally had to plan to do the plan. That was a whole other thing, just the planning process to get that figured out, how and when and who and all of that. There was a lot of logistical stuff that went along with creating that 3-year plan. And, it was a tough one, I think, for a lot of districts to find all of that extra time. So that was a huge barrier, and I look for that not to change this year. If you're in the cohort 2, I think it's going to be, you know, very, very hard to find all that time.
And I know this question is probably more for the folks that are actually populating the CCIP, but when all your information from the needs assessment, you know, when that was shared or fed into the continuous improvement plan, I know with a couple of my districts, there were a little bit of frustration because sometimes when you tie other improvement areas to your priority need, or when you're trying to go for, you know, how many goals and which type of goals you want to create, sometimes that feeding process from the needs assessment to the CCIP wasn't a seamless process. So I wondered if anyone had experienced similar issues and what you had to do to get your plan and goals and strategies looking to how you were okay with how they looked.
Can I talk to that for a second, buddy?
Mm-hmm.
So we were cohort 1, and we had just kind of, I was the importer and making sure things were easy to read when they went into the CCIP. And when it was pulling things over, we had multiple strategies underneath our first goal. And if you just told it to pull over from the system, it kept naming the strategies the same thing. And it was really confusing because then you actually had to click in to see the explanation of, well, this was this strategy underneath that first one. And this was that second strategy underneath that first one. And this was the third. Instead of it just kept reading all the same. So when you would look at the document, it looked like we had the same strategy 9 times, but they were all subsets underneath of that first goal. And that was a little bit confusing. And then once I kind of figured out how to click things to get them to pull through, and like a lot of other people had mentioned, you know, just learning how to use the new system. I think once we get that sorted out, it's going to be easier because we know, like we've done this before, we know what we want that end result to look like. And when it's not coming through how we want it to look, and then I wasn't quite sure how to change it and go back and delete things off of there. And so that was a little bit just tricky if you happen to be the person that is, you know, working on that, just the electronic end, not necessarily the working together and developing the plan end.
Yeah, thanks. And that's exactly what I was looking for, because I know, you know, that was frustrating for you, and, you know, and I'm sure everyone is kind of sharing what you said. So that's why I was, you know, wondering if there were others that had issues with that, you know, and how you went about fixing that. Because I know whoever's cohort 2, cohort 3 on here, maybe even your 1-year plan, you had experienced that. So anyone could give advice on those things, please share at this point.
I heard that from other districts too. It's almost the backwards planning process when you think of a lesson plan, that backwards planning.
No others. And I know one thing that we'll share, and Susan and I talked about this before, when it was the old days, back when it was decision framework was the needs assessment, we were schooled very well, and even had a demo site that we were able to go in and click through screens and kind of choose things. And for me personally, I was pretty comfortable when that decision framework was the way that you determined your needs assessment. This one needs assessment, the new one, over the past couple of years, that demo site never came to be. So we kind of were going by screens that we could, that we could see and that you could see when it came to the needs assessment. But when it transitioned to the CCIP, there were certain things that you could see on your end, on your screens, that we really couldn't see, or, it would be frustrating because I would want to be able to, get into something that I couldn't get into to help those folks, like Stephanie had said, to make it more simple, to get strategies and goals to look the way they wanted to and to show up the way they wanted to. And we just didn't have a tool to increase our capacity when it came to that. So fingers crossed that maybe something will be out there here in the near future. We can move on to question 3, and this is an interesting question. And I love the comments from question 3 about how the root cause analysis, what your thoughts were on this. So got some good comments on district using a 5 why process to drill down, to find causes and reasons. And it was then the other, and similar to some of the examples that we experienced, maybe people weren't getting to the root cause, but maybe they were finding a reason or a blame and not being truly reflective. I remember going to one workshop where sort of like, are you looking in the mirror, at your root causes, or are you looking out the window for your root causes? And then another plus, that the root cause did help choose our goals and strategies, but not jump to solutions first. So that was challenging. And then the 5 whys was effective. Found ourselves conducting RCAs for areas it was difficult to be actionable about, but some of the data resulting in our RCA for our team did not seem to connect to a 5 why fishbone. So some things, weren't there. So, and people liked the comments that those folks made. And I'd love to hear some more feedback or to follow up with those comments that were on the screen. Because I think at some point we were told over and over again, from the Department of Education, that the one needs assessment tool was for districts to use, for buildings and districts to use. So, they could have put whatever they put in those open-ended responses and what they put on the root cause analysis. I mean, that was kind of they weren't going to be penalized, or under a microscope for any of the answers that they put in that one needs assessment tool, and that included the root cause analysis and what districts chose as priority needs. And I know that root cause analysis, that response box pulled into your CCIP to kind of help your goals and strategies. It was kind of a standalone item in there. But so I don't know if that caused maybe teams to be a little apprehensive, like maybe they didn't want to put certain things into root cause analysis, for certain reasons, because sometimes when I screw up, I don't want to tell my wife the real truth as to why I screwed up and did something bad. But, I didn't know if maybe that was sort of owning, certain issues and getting to that root cause, if that maybe caused teams not to truly to cast blame instead of taking responsibility. I don't know. I was just looking for some comments and some thoughts for those things.
Do you mind if I talk again? I just have so many words today.
I know we're gonna be co-presenter pretty soon stuff.
No, thank you.
But no, you went through it, and I'm glad you're sharing, because you were cohort 1. And my follow-up question was after you tell me the answer about how you felt about the feedback that you got. But please share first.
Yeah. So with the 5 why, it really did kind of help us tease out what was the problem. And so you start with this big, giant global problem. Like, you know, you look at these results, like, well, our kids can't do math. Okay, well, that's great. But first of all, you're blaming it on the kids. And that was tricky because we kept saying it has to be an adult behavior. It has to be an adult behavior. It can't be, well, the kids don't know. That can never be the problem. We can only affect what we can affect. So by saying the kids can't, and that for some teachers, that was a little bit of a transition to get them thinking in a different direction. And so, that helped us a lot to start thinking, well, we can control this. What can we control? And we ended up kind of drilling down, and we ended up with thinking, you got down to critical thinking. And it was like our kids are not being, when they get to these things, we haven't taught them how to tease out the different pieces and to figure out specifically what they need to do. And so that critical thinking that was identified in math, then some of our science teachers that were involved in this were like, yeah, we see that in science too. And that was kind of our green light as like, oh, maybe this is a valid root cause because we're seeing it in multiple areas, and ELA was even saying, well, they're not being detailed enough in their responses. Well, then that's going back to critical thinking in all of those areas. And so something that kind of seemed encapsulated with math ended out, we realized as a district, well, that, is something going on district wide. So we really liked just working through that. And we had some conversations that we typically would not have had because we were digging down into this stuff so deep. Because, the blanket is, well, we just can't do this. Why? Well, this is our reason. Well, why do you think that? And they were getting frustrated with me because I just kept saying, well, why do you think that? Why do you think that? And they were like, oh my gosh. But it really did lead to some good discussion, just, kind of figuring out what we really do need to focus on. And then your follow-up question to that was the feedback. I was a little frustrated with our feedback. I didn't think it was, it was feedback. It was not necessarily quality feedback like you're looking for with that good Patty effect size. But it was just kind of, yes, we looked at this and, some of the questions they asked, I thought if they had looked a little bit closer, they might have even found the answers to those in there. So, it is what it is, and it's year one for them giving feedback as it was year one for us completing it. So hopefully, as they get more practice with it, they'll be able to improve, kind of their direction to the districts that are coming up.
Yeah, and I shared that when I looked at the feedback, and if Stephanie don't mind, like Connaughton Valley were reviewed by 3 different offices. And so I think one of the 3 actually had some recommendations, minor. I mean, the plan was still approved, and it had to do with some language around standards, which was kind of ironic because they do a lot with standards-based grading at Connaughton Valley as they determine interventions for students and how they monitor things. But I guess I'm glad that I was involved in some of Connaughton Valley's district leadership meetings over the past year or so, because they do spend a lot of time discussing adult data and adult behaviors in their districts. So when it comes to that, then they are comfortable, I think, at when they dig into those why questions, that's just sort of a culture that I've grown to understand, working with them for a short period of time, is that a lot of it goes back to adult behavior, because sometimes there is a threshold you cross. It's like, well, okay, what adult behavior can we change if we're not happy with what our students are producing? And those are really, really good conversations to have. Anything else that, really appreciate that. Anyone else, even that's not a cohort 1, even though your plans may not have been reviewed, or maybe only by federal programs, if you were a cohort 2 or 3, just to follow up what Stephanie said, or your experiences. Okay, we appreciate all the all the comments. Like I said, we're going to capture this information and share this feedback. I'm going to stop share at this point. And okay, we're back to this screen. I know I had gotten a message that said Morgan Brown was going to log in at 10. Was that correct, Susan?
Yeah, I just got a message saying he was going to be on at 10, and then he has an overlapping meeting, so he'll pop in and then have to pop out. So maybe we take just a couple minute break and give him a chance to get in.
Yeah, let's take like 5. So we'll
Sure.
come back at 10:05, and then that way Morgan should be logged on, and that way you guys can check your emails and texts and see who needs cover for substitute teacher classes and stuff. Morgan, are you on?
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Hey, good. Actually, it was
Good to
perfect
see.
timing. 'Cause
Okay,
we were
great.
having a discussion, and I wasn't checking my email, but Susan saw where you were able to check in at 10 and then probably have to check off. So literally, we just took at 9:59, took a 5-minute quick,
Great.
check your email, catch your breath kind of break, and then 10:05. These guys will start back up in 3 minutes, and because I know we have I'll wait till everybody gets back on. There was one question and I wasn't real good at answering that had to do with a grant question.
Sure. Yeah.
And so
happy to
all
help
good
out.
there. And there's Amy Hill too, because I wasn't sure if she was able to check on or not. So then does she have to go to the same meeting you do? Or is
Yeah,
it
she
different?
does. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Okay.
kind of a OFP meeting. So, but yeah, that's great. Hey, Amy. We don't use Zoom very much too, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm assuming
Yeah.
Amy. I'm
Well,
assuming
she's-
Amy, so.
I
Oh, there
see.
she comes. Yeah.
She's muted. Thanks, Amy, for joining. And that
Good
was good. That was
morning.
awesome.
Hi.
No, thanks, because you're, out west, right?
Yeah, actually, I don't know if you can see the ocean or not.
Oh, geez, Louise.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm in Monterey.
Oh, that's awesome.
I said it was
Yeah.
perfect timing to Morgan because we're at 10:05. We're going to come back together, and then you guys had another meeting to go on, so it kind of worked out perfect. And I know
Yeah.
there was one question, but then it gives everyone, names and faces, because I know I'm not sure if everyone had been able to see or meet you yet, Amy. I know we didn't in person yet, so it gives me an
Right.
opportunity to match a name to a face too.
This time's so crazy with COVID. It's like, by this point, Amy would have met everybody, if we
Yeah.
had our regional trainings and, all the different ways we work
And
with field.
schools, I don't know, it's probably statewide, but schools in our region, it's like it's day to day. Like I had a couple DLT meetings postponed this week because people were out, and schools are postponing homecoming dances and canceling football games, and some places are even having to go remote for a period of time, depending on the school building. So no, it's definitely no one had guessed that we were going to be in this spot in September, but they're dealing with it. Everyone's kind of working hard. People said that, hey, but even in our group today are just kind of, they're just dealing with it and doing the best they can. So we respect all they're doing for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Where are you with math? I was wondering where they were with math. My daughter's school started without them, or it was optional. The parents.
It's kind of 50-50. Some are switching.
On whether they.
Yeah, there's some considering it. Some switched. Some maybe
They went back
doing
to mandatory.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to introduce you guys since it's 10:05. So hopefully everyone's back and everybody probably just heard our informal conversation. But I invited Morgan Brown and Amy Hill here from the Office of Federal Programs. Morgan's been with us before, and I know he's got a new assignment. So I was kind of like, well, if you would be able to join us, it kind of be like, hey, nice to see you, SST 12, and it's sort of like a more of a formal goodbye, but not farewell. And then Amy Hill, being our new person for federal programs in this region, was able to join us as well. So I know I won't take up a lot of time. I'm going to let them go because they have another meeting, but I will leave you with one question that was asked earlier in the chat. The question was, what about school quality improvement grants? Will those be released this school year?
And it's not handled directly in our office. I'd say your best person to contact will be Brian Hoynacki in improvement and innovation. And I know they have a new program manager on school improvement. Her name's Jackie. Trying to remember her last name. So what I would say is that we have not heard a final say on whether they're going to carry over funds. So I know you have till 9:30 to obligate any expenditures in the Title I non-competitive school improvement, right? And then also I think the SQUIG and all that, you have till 9:30 to obligate those. There's a CCIP note on it that's much more thorough than I'll probably misspeak if I say too much more about it. So I would recommend checking out the CCIP note. And I don't know, Amy, if you have a chance while I'm introducing myself, to maybe pull up. I know it's in there. If you just searched by school improvement, it would come up. And that way we could provide them a direct link. But
I just put Brian's email in the chat also.
Yep, it explains in that CCIP note, because there's different pots, obviously, of school improvement money, as you guys know much better than me. You're working with those funds, so I think you'd want to consult with that guidance first, and then maybe Buddy or Susan, maybe if you could follow up with the program manager there and kind of get an answer on carryover, because the reason they don't normally announce it really early is they want folks to spend down their funds, obviously, because there's a period of availability of those funds. And if they're not spent in the year they're awarded, school improvement traditionally has been one of the harder grants to spend down. And so they normally don't announce carryover until later if they're going to allow it. So that's why I think if you look at the note, it'll say like carryover may be allowed or something like that. So you guys could probably follow up. This is a good time period for you to follow up to find out, because they're probably making those decisions now. So I hope that helps. I'm sorry that we're not kind of the content experts on school improvement, but I do know that Brian is great to work with, and so is Jackie, and they'd be happy to help you guys through it. So, but and I just wanted to tell everybody, I used to come to these meetings pretty often, and I just have had such a great time working with all of you. And Buddy and Susan, you guys have been awesome and keeping me in contact when I was the federal programs coordinator with everybody. I'm not moving out of the office. I'm an assistant director now in our office. So you'll still see my name probably on your final approvals. When those go through, you'll see those at times. And then also I still work on emergency grants. I'm not the point person for that now. We actually have a whole team for emergency grants. So I'm on more of whole child supports. So I coordinate Title 1C, Title 1D, Title 3, Title 4, and then equitable services is under my team too. So Chantel is on my team. So that's kind of the work I do. Still working a little bit in emergency grants. So if anybody has emergency grant questions, feel free to reach out to Amy first. That's the next thing I'll do is introduce you, Amy. But Amy is great. She'd be a good first contact. But if you guys ever have questions, I'm always here for you too. I'm still in the office. And I'll just maybe introduce Amy. Amy has been at our office, I think 3 years now, Amy, is that right? Or coming up on 3 years?
Right. It'll be 3 years in March. So
okay.
Two and some change.
Yep. And she was a federal programs coordinator before, right? You were in their role, right? So
I came from district as a curriculum director, federal programs coordinator. I've been on their side of things, so I think it's helpful to
perspective to have, and I just because she knows what you're trying to do, she can see, and try to help you through things. Also, Amy is in Title 5B, she's the coordinator for Title 5B for rural. So that's very helpful for a lot of our districts that have Title 5B. So I'll just introduce Amy, if you'd like to maybe say a few words, but feel free to reach out to Amy. She's great. I've worked with her, throughout this time. She's always very responsive and helpful. So Amy, if you'd like to say anything.
Yeah, I'll just say good morning. I mean, you kind of already introduced me. I don't have a lot else to say. I'm not going to go through my whole resume or anything, but excited to be with the new districts. Really excited to take on the state coordinator rural role. That's kind of something near and dear to my heart. I grew up rural, so really appreciate working with those districts. And please reach out whenever. I'll put my email again and my phone number in the chat so that you'll have that in case you don't, but I'm always in your address book as your CCIP contact. So yeah, excited to be here, and please don't hesitate to reach out if I don't know the answer. I'm pretty good at finding it. So I hope to work well together with you. And I have messaged Brian Hoynacki through Teams to see if he can give me an answer on the squid.
Yeah,
so we'll see what happens.
That's great. Yeah, I don't know if there were any other, thank you so much, Amy. I don't know if there are any other questions from the group. I just typed up a few kind of reminders about this time of the year. You probably already know about these, but just if you haven't submitted your consolidated application already, or if you are submitting revisions, continue to do that. Continue to update your planning tool too. If you're in cohort 1, make sure you get your buildings really differentiated. So if they're a priority or focus building, really get what are you doing differently for those particular buildings to support maybe the subgroups that are needing support there. So if you're in cohort 1, remember you're starting your 3-year plan. So that's where we would be looking on a revision. If you did have suggested changes that we made, we would look to probably have those in on your first revision on your plan if you can. So continue to work on funding and planning. Obviously, FER is coming up, the final expenditure report, and then carryover funds will load after that, obviously. If you're a new consultant, if you have questions about the timing of things, Buddy and Susan can help you, but also Amy would probably be happy to just, kind of help you through those first, the first part's always a little tough to know the time frames on everything, but final expenditure report is right around the corner. The 930 report, if you have funds at risk. So that's a report that comes up in your CCIP. It'll appear in your CCIP and we'll announce it. But you would know because you would have it it'll come up as a page in your CCIP if you have any funds at risk. Now this year we had waivers due to COVID. So I doubt you're going to have much on that if you have anything that's at risk, but just so you know, this time of the year typically is that happens, but probably not as intense this year as it would in normal years since we have waivers from the U.S. Department. And then just OAS FEP is coming up. So the conference is 25th and 26th of October. I don't really have updates on, I know things are so fast moving right now with COVID. As of now, it's still in person. And I know that they issued recently to us, just that they're going to be following obviously CDC guidance and kind of social distancing and following the hotel where they're having it has followed all the policies. So I think it's going to be a safe environment, but it's coordinated with the OSASFP conference. So can't speak for them necessarily, but as of this point, I know it's still in person. We're hoping maybe there's some kind of options virtually, but we're just not at that stage yet. And we don't know how things are going to develop too. So just be on the lookout for any announcements from the OASFEP conference. That normally, Buddy and Susan, do you know how that normally comes? It's in a newsletter, right? The Ed Connections. I don't know if everybody gets that. And then maybe some other places where it gets announced. You guys will probably pass it on too, if they have any announcements. But that's all I had in terms of dates for people. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. Do we have any SLSA districts with us this morning?
That's a good question. Yeah. Is anybody?
Because
that's
the final drawdown just came out from the feds, and I don't think, we only had 2 districts that were above $10,000 in their remaining funds. So I don't think either one of those districts are with us. They've been notified,
Yeah.
not only from the REAP team on the federal level, but I did remind them yesterday as well. Also, the rural conference, the NREA conference is coming up in November 11th and 12th in Indianapolis. So if anybody needs information on, they can reach out to me as well, and I can put them in touch.
Cut out a little bit, Amy.
Correct.
I don't know if everybody else could cut out for you guys too.
Oh, I think you froze there, Morgan. I don't know if people could hear me or not, but your video
Yeah, so the
froze.
rural conference in November in
Yeah.
Indy. Yeah, and if they need
11th and
contact
12th.
information, reach out to you. Yep.
Yep.
That's great. Yeah, good to know, because a lot of our schools probably get Title V, whether that's our SRSA, small rural schools, or RILS, right? Is it rural?
RLIS, rural low income schools.
Rural low income schools. It's over like 20% of low income or something. Yeah. So, yeah. So if you have any questions, Amy's your person for that. she's in that every day. So, but I just thank everybody. I've always had a great time at these meetings and helping you out in any way that I can. So feel free to reach out to Amy and to myself and our team, and we're happy to help you. So
thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Well, that's what I was saying. If there were any additional questions, like unmute and ask, or you can put those in the chat, and then I can verbally share those. So because I know if we need you, if you have questions, then I would assume we got you for about another 10 minutes if we need you.
Yep.
Okay.
Definitely.
But if there aren't questions, then I don't want to keep you guys. I know the waves are crashing up against Amy's, place there. So.
Oh, it's okay. I can be here as long as I need. I'm working. It's a work day. I just have a nice view today. That's all. A little different view than working at home.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard from Brian yet regarding the squid, but when I do, I'll send you an email, buddy, and then you can get information.
Okay.
To the
Thanks.
folks.
I will do that. Yep.
Yeah, hopefully someday we'll be able to have these in person again. I remember coming to a couple of them too. It's really nice at that Zanesville. That's your office, right? Your head or the SST where you guys have your meeting. Yep. Cambridge. Sorry. Yeah. Cambridge. Yeah. I remember, kind of had breakout tables there, and it was just really nice environment to have meetings. So hopefully, Amy, you'll get to do that at some point too. Kind of meet everybody.
Yeah, I'm planning on attending the OASFAP in person. So anybody that's there, I'll be happy to. Hopefully, we'll be able to have some kind of meet and greet.
Definitely.
Buddy, this is Jill Sheridan. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure whether it would be Amy Morgan or maybe Office of Improvement, that Buddy and Susan that you work closer with. I work with New Philly, who wasn't able to be on the call today. And New Philadelphia City is in cohort 2. So the question is for myself and also their new federal programs coordinator, who's brand new to all things CCIP. When do we anticipate seeing the supports, meetings, timelines, webinars coming out for, so as Susan mentioned earlier, I know she was very adamant about creating a timeline and plan to roll out and to actually complete the one needs plan so that it can roll over. So do we have a timeline for anything like that for cohort 2?
So we're just kind of setting the dates, and we're gonna have them in STARS, and we're actually about to work with places to reserve on-site facilities, just in case that's an option for early January. So I know that may be a little bit later than normal. Our rationale was that last year we did our needs assessment trainings in like November and December, and then our one plan was in January, and it kind of got a little disjointed. And our feedback on our surveys from our cohort 1 districts was a lot of us didn't know we needed to. We thought we were done at the one needs assessment and didn't need to continue doing it. So this year we want to do a training that flows from needs assessment into plan, and it's part of like modules in the same training unit. So we want to do it all around the same time, so that you guys are trained in the whole process, and that the terminology across the systems, all that is the same. So I would plan for early January. We're going to have a number of trainings, and they're going to be separated by your cohort. So cohort 2 would have cohort 2 specific trainings in January. That'll be for 3-year planning, right? Now I will say, and then cohort 1 and cohort 3 will also have trainings, and I think a little bit later in February. I think they're in February, and we will release guidance on sort of the timeframes. They'll be pretty similar to last year, like end of March, I think, is the first is the date for your one needs assessment if you're in cohort 2, sorry. And then for everyone else, it would be June 30th. So similar timeframes to last year, but we'll release all that pretty soon. The other thing I would say is that OAA SFEP, we're going to do a session that's on 3-year planning that might be helpful to New Philadelphia and to anyone else that is going to be entering cohort 2. So it won't officially be a cohort 2 training, but it'll be on 3-year planning. And it's we suggest in our little description, we suggest cohort 2 districts attend that training, and we'll try to have a recording of that as well, so that, you know, even in, you know, October, you're getting a jump start on that, even though it's not a specific training on the new system. Because if you guys remember, we're developing the one plan system with our vendor. We're hoping to have that released for this year, so it will be a much more intuitive system, not working in one place where you can do your needs assessment and planning. So depending on the timing of that, we thought January is the time when we'll actually roll that out and give you very content specific trainings on cohort 2. But you will get a little preview. You'll get some kind of 3-year planning in the OAA SFEP. So hope that's helpful. There's a couple sessions in there for planning. So if you look in the schedule at a glance, you should be able to find the trainings on that.
Okay.
And Amy actually put some things in the chat, links to FY22 monthly meetings and things for new coordinators, sessions they're going to have each month.
Yeah.
Thank you both very much. I'll be sure to pass these along to Laurie Hall, is her name, at New Philadelphia.
Great.
Morgan, did you say at the OAA SFEP that there would be a specific training for that? But does it say cohort 2?
I think it says Ed Steps 3-year planning. So we didn't say cohort 2 just because we don't have the system ready yet, and we don't have guidance and all that. You know, we're working on all that right now. So we wanted to preview it and give you, like, you know, so I know I'm entering my cohort year. What does 3-year planning entail? What does that look like? You know, and so we'll give you a preview and to everything we have currently in our systems, and give you more focused training than later, in January. So.
Okay. I noticed on there that it said Ed Steps 1, and then another session was Ed Steps 2, and then the next and third one as well. Is that what you're referencing?
There were, Rosemary, there were some errors in the initial schedule at a glance. So just know that really soon we're going to be releasing a modified version of that. Okay. So I don't know where that happened, but we caught it, and so now we're modifying it. So it's the one that's on 3-year plan. So is Cambridge in cohort 2 as well?
2, yes.
Okay. Yeah, the one you guys would want to do is the one that says 3-year planning. So there's a couple of them that have Ed Steps in the title, but the one you want is the 3-year planning. Okay. So that's the one, and it'll be me and Diane kind of leading that. So
good. Thank you.
Any other questions for us before we head out? And, you know, feel free to reach out at any point, guys. Good to see everybody again. Rosemary, I feel like I haven't talked to you for 3 months now.
I know. Right. It'll be nice to see you in Columbus.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thank you all so much.
Yeah, thanks, Morgan and Amy. I mean, I know all these folks in our region appreciated it. And I know we probably would even had more people online today, but a lot of people are dealing with in district, in building situations. So yeah, hopefully people can make it to the October conference. And anything that they ask us that we can't answer, then we'll forward to you guys. So thankful for your easy communications.
Yeah, thank you so much, Morgan and Amy.
I just noticed, Susan, that you have Michael Scott in your background. That's cool.
Yeah,
thank you guys so much. Nice. Well, thank you all so much. And if you need anything, just let us know. So, have a good day.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, well, I'm going to turn this to you, Susan. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm getting this fixed here. Give me 1 second. I need to share my screen again. Why is this so difficult? Okay.
Yeah, Morgan, those guys were on a little bit sooner, which worked out well. So our slides will be a little out of order, but we should be fine.
Yeah, it's all right. We're flexible. The next thing we wanted to do was offer everyone a chance to get together in breakout room and do a little bit more networking. We know that the past year brought a lot of changes, a lot of unwelcome changes, but also some things that you took and made something positive out of that had a positive impact on your building or in your district. So we'd like to give you all a chance to just think about and reflect on those positive things that you had. And we're going to let our consultants have graciously agreed to facilitate those breakout rooms. Jill Sheridan and Susan Larson, Scott Eldridge and Lydia Bergegard are going to facilitate. They're going to do the recording and reporting so that everyone else can just have the conversation about some positive things. And we wanted to offer an example. At the SST, Zoom became a new platform for us. We weren't really Zoomers or Zoom friendly, so to speak. And we kind of embraced that platform. We learned about it and really did a lot of practice using that and found it to be a benefit for meetings such as this. And we got a lot of positive feedback from that, from people who didn't have to travel over an hour or even over an hour and a half to come to the office for a half-day meeting or a network meeting such as this. And they really like the convenience of being able to use Zoom and do everything virtually. And we found that to be a great advantage. So we have decided to keep the Zoom platform as something that we use on a regular basis here at the SST for certain kinds of meetings and trainings. So when you get into your breakout room, the consultants will have a prompt. Let me see if I can find that. And it will look.
Oh, the link didn't. It's titled "Keep the Change." So, Scott just put the link in the chat.
Okay, so here's what it's going to look like. So we'll have, I think, 4 breakout rooms, and our consultants are going to capture the information, just the district or building, and the positive change that your district or building has decided to keep. I know a lot of things happened with scheduling, different kinds of hallway transition plans, and all kinds of things that happened that people thought, oh, that really works better. So we're going to give you about 15 minutes, I think, in breakout room to just talk about those things. And then we'll come back as a whole group and have a much larger share out. So Scott, are we ready for this? You're muted or not talking or still muted.
There we go. So Lydia, you will be in charge of room 1. I will be in room 2. Susan Larson, you will be room 3, and then room 4 will be Jill. And then everybody else is just randomly put into those rooms. So I want to go ahead and open those now for 15 minutes.
Right. Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome.
Now, do you want me to pause or just keep recording this?
I think now you can pause because it's just going to be kind of dead. I have shared the screen with the Keep the Change Google Doc, and we'll just go around the breakout rooms and share out with the whole group. So we'll start with Lydia in breakout room 1. And you're muted. There you go.
Right, there we go. So we had a small, intimate group, so we got through this good. Connaughton Valley, Stephanie shared that, trying to move this over so I can see, that a positive change was that they are conducting team building activities and promoting positive attitudes. So that's something that they did at the beginning of the school year. They actually did an activity where they put maybe their frustrations in a balloon and they let them go, or they popped them and got that out of their system, and then started the year with positives. And she really liked that. So that's something she wants to keep. Also, that staff has an increased technology knowledge and use for themselves and the classroom, and that's been beneficial. And also kind of what you had said, Susan, that Zoom has really helped her to attend meetings because Connaughton Valley is so far up there. If it's an hour plus away from her office, being able to jump on and Zoom, the time she's saving in driving is making her be able to be more productive and be back in the building. And our last thing was that she's glad that we have technology, but she's also very glad to be back into the actual school building, but knowing that they have the option if they do have to do some virtual learning, that's good. And then Michelle from Zanesville City shared, again, just the use of technology. The biggest thing is that they're still able to conduct ETR and IEP meetings and have involvement from the whole team. Maybe it was difficult for someone to, make it to the same building. So for their providers and their parents, because a lot of the parents, it might not have been a COVID reason that they couldn't attend, but maybe a transportation reason or the busy middle of a workday reason. And with using technology, they're able to have a more cohesive team meeting for those special education meetings. You are now muted, Susan.
I'm copying you. Yeah, so this is really great. I think everyone can find some takeaways from these different ideas too. Let's see if I can find room 2. Was Scott?
Yeah. So our breakout room worked the way we were hoping these network meetings would work. So yeah, we talked about the change and stuff, but there was also great conversation about some of the things that are going on in their districts and some of the, like, sharing some ideas. It was great to listen to. If anyone who knows Ann Trendley, that she's got questions and suggestions, and she is just like an information sponge. And so she wanted to know what other people were doing, and it was really good. When we got into talking about the change, Zoom was a big part of it, and everybody kind of mentioned some things that helped, or that Zoom has helped over the last couple years or year and a half. Allows people to attend more meetings and different meetings that they might not otherwise be able to attend. For Zanesville, they have their attendance at their DLTs is up because they can do it virtually. And I think they're doing hybrid anyway, so they could, they get people in both ways. And then also one of the things we talked about, and whether it's positive, the whole issues with masks, and whether people were using or not, that we know that this time last year we didn't have the absences, and the idea that if you wear the masks, you don't have to quarantine an entire classroom or building or whatever group of kids, if they're wearing the masks, does help to keep kids in school. And then Travis from OOD said, that it allows, using Zoom allows them to get into more meetings, and particularly IEP meetings and transition meetings that they might not have been able to attend all of that, especially if you have a lot of distance between meetings that you're trying to go to, when you can just Zoom in. So it was a great conversation. I really enjoyed listening to them.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Just lots and lots of good things to take away. Room 3, I think that was Susan.
Yes, and we have a lot of dittos, I think, from room 1 and 2. We definitely had a discussion around Zoom and just the benefits from that. It was also mentioned in ours that attendance at DLTs is up, and it's creating an interest in that process. So that's been great. The ability to collaborate with teachers during prep versus a visit, Zoom has helped with that. Talked a lot about technology training and how that can always continue, but teachers, even veteran teachers, are definitely more on board and entering a new comfort zone with the use of technology. Also talked a little bit about programming. So staggered starts, half the students on day 1, the other half on day 2, and how that will continue. And summer programming was enhanced. And one of the districts modeled that after 21st Century and saw some great benefits. And I believe Zanesville also mentioned that their attendance and enrollment in summer programming had increased this year. And talked about flipped classrooms, pre-assessments, and seeing those being much more widely used now in classrooms because of the last year, and how believe that will only continue and even get stronger. I think that's it.
Great. And I see Google Classroom, keeping students learning.
Yeah.
That's another new one. Oh, was this still you, Susan?
Oh, yes, we had great discussion and lots of input. So, and I did talk about that when I was talking. So,
okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
And I believe everyone has access to this doc. So when you go to the materials folder for this session, you will be able to access this too if you want to take a look back and see what people put in there. So our last group was with Jill.
A lot of dittos from what we've all heard in the first 3, but really recognizing that remote learning forced the continued connections with kids, and it also forced the continuous learning, where it used to be kids were absent. We might not always go find those kids, or they had to come and find us to find out what learning assignments they missed. But being responsible for those continuous learning and that understanding that when kids aren't there, that still goes on with both the kids and families and the educators. Riverview has had an opportunity with some funds to add in after school programming and summer programming, and knowing that connections with kids can keep them engaged in the research behind that will be powerful. So they're hoping to be able to keep that in this change. We sort of overall talked together, so I didn't put a name behind this, but everyone agreed that the teaching methods of blended learning, as someone had said, that technology learning that educators were forced into is a good balance to bring that into the classroom inappropriate manners is what we, Tim also brought up from Zanesville. You know, when you get to be in person, how do you use technology and still be in the room with the students? So there's a bit of a now learning curve that has to happen with that. And then, oh, yep. And my phone rang in the middle of it too. And then Zanesville community really understanding that they're, you know, they've always had online learning, but that remote learning is the possibility, and the connections with their relationships with their students and families is so critical. Now that they have them back, they really recognize that. ECO, ESC, working in consultation with districts, found that what they want to be able to keep is everyone's flexibility to do and try new things, and everyone's compassion that came along with the past 2 years. And I mentioned, Susan, that when you and Buddy and I sat down and looked at the CCIPs this week together, that we were really noticing we're basically, yes, we have those academic goals, but we also have safe and healthy schools. And right now we're actually focusing on safe and healthy schools as the #1 goal, that where we're at for the fall of 2021.
Great. Thank you, Jill. And thank you everyone for sharing all of these ideas and all of these positives. I think sometimes the negatives just start weighing us down. And I think it's really important that we have these kinds of conversations together as a region so that we can hear what's happening in other places and also share those good things from our districts that we're doing. Thank you, everyone. The next thing we want to do is kind of ask you to save the date. We're kind of coming to the end of our session today a little bit early. We can blame Morgan and Amy for that since they're not here. We just thought they would have more to say. So they'll hear that later, I'm sure. So our next network meeting is scheduled for December the 8th, same time from 9 to 11:30. And if you look around our network room and see someone who isn't here that you think could benefit or would have a good time coming and joining the chat with us, please invite them. We try to send out flyers, and I know I bug people with flyers sometimes if I notice you haven't registered yet, but we really do appreciate it. And we believe the more voices at the table, the better the network. So if you would save this date, that would be great. I also wanted to share something else. Let me find a way real quick. All this jumping screens, I'm not prepared. Okay, so this is a Mentimeter. If you go to menti.com and put in that code, Buddy and I would like to have your input as to what topics you would like covered for next time. Even if it's a discussion topic for a breakout room or something about the breakout room. Was it too long, too short? Any of those things, if you could just put that into the Menti, and we'll get those ideas generated. If you're not familiar with Menti or don't want to learn it in the next 2 minutes, just put that into the chat. You can also text or email Buddy or I, and we're happy to take those suggestions. We'll probably be planning for December. We'll start next month, in the next month sometime, doing the actual planning. So there's plenty of time. If anything comes up that you would like to talk about, we'd be happy to do that. So yeah, one brave soul so far. So the student data, I'm guessing highly quality student data and teams. It's always good. Assessments. Great. Plan revisions. And I'll just leave this Menti in present mode so you can add things to it. And then Buddy and I will check it, in a little while and see if anything else is there. Something may pop into your head. And like I say, feel free to also just email us or text us, and we'll be happy to look at those suggestions and try to incorporate as much as we can into our next meeting. The next thing we want to shamelessly plug are our plans for virtual office hours. So some more, please save these dates, March 18th and February 18th from 8 to 9. And this is a very informal time to just get together with myself and Buddy, and we just talk about whatever's happening at the time. I know last year there was a lot of talk around the one needs assessment, one plan, what are the glitches, what's not working, what do we hate about it, those kinds of conversations, which we're happy to have. And then sometimes, there were other things about suggestions and grant work and stuff like that. So it's just very informal. You can pop in, ask a question, get your information and leave. Or you can log on for the whole time and spend the whole hour with us, which is always interesting. We do have an evaluation of today's session we would like for you to fill out to give us some other kinds of feedback. At the end of your evaluation prompt, there's something that you submit, and then it will give you a certificate for 2.5 contact hours for being with us today. And I think that link, is that link now in the chat?
Yeah, it's in there several times, actually, because Scott put it in, I put it in. So yeah.
So you can get 5 hours. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if you do it twice, or just log in as somebody else, I guess.
How many possible hours do I get for this? That's all I want to know. So that kind of wraps us up. We'll give you a few minutes to do that. And we appreciate all of you today, all of your input, all of your questions, suggestions, your shares. It's really been a good way to start our year with this network meeting.
Yeah, and I just want to, thank folks. I know that, we'd love to have them in person, but it's hard based on what you guys are doing now. I know there are several folks that we normally see that couldn't join today because of certain things that they're working with and dealing with in their districts. But, as a past curriculum director, federal programs person, I gained a lot of knowledge. I know Angie Hicks was on here today, and Sue Farrelly from Martins Ferry couldn't join us. But I mean, those are folks that I learned how to do goals and strategies and actions, years ago. So I know that these connections you make with each other and hearing these ideas really helps to take those ideas back from, to your district. So that's why I love it, with the breakout rooms, you guys sharing. And also when we did the first activity, when we got your feedback from the needs assessment and CCIP, then I'm sure there's people always thinking similar to what you're thinking. So that's why we applaud, folks that, and we had several folks I know that switched positions, that were able to, or switch districts even, that joined us today. And then, so we know time's valuable. So hopefully you guys grasp something today to take with you.
Yeah, I just want to add to thank you to our coworkers, Joe and Susan, Lydia and Scott, for helping and supporting us today with this meeting. We appreciate that as well. And thank you, everyone. So we hope to see you all back here with us in December.